Om Shuklam Bharadharam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyahet Sarva Vignopashantahe. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinabadhitamastu Mavet Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Agajānana Patmarkam Gajānana Maharnisham Anekadantam Bhaktanam Ekadhantam Upasmahe Shri Mahaganapataye Namaha Gurave Sarvalokanam Vishaje Bhavaroginam Nidaye Sarva Vidyanam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Asmat Guru Charanarvindabhyam Namaha Vasudheva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Jnanaanandamayam Devam Nirmalaspatikakritim Adharam Sarva Vidyanam Shri Hayagrivam Shri Hayagriva Namaha Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambam Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Shri Mahasaraswatyai Namaha Uma Komala Hastabja Sambhavitalatakam Hiranyakundalam Vande Kumaram Pushkarasrajam Vetrivel Muruganukku Hara Hara Lokaviryam Mahapujyam Sarvarakshakaram Vibhum Parvati Hridayanandam Shastaram Pranamamyaham Swami Sharanamayappa Vagartampiva Sampraktau Vagarta Pratipattahe Jagadah Pitarau Vande Parvati Parameshwarau Shri Parvati Parameshwarabhyam Namaha Komalam Kujayan Venum Shyamaloyam Kumarakah Veda Vedyam Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Asmat Guru Charanarvindabhyam Namaha Shri Krishna Govinda Hare Murare Shri Nath Narayana Vasudeva Shri Krishna Govinda Hare Murare Shri Nath Narayana Vasudeva Shri Krishna Govinda Hare Murare Shri Nath Narayana Vasudeva Pitambaram Karavirajita Chakra Shanka Kaumodaki Sarasijam Karuna Samudram Radha Sahayam Atisundara Mandahasam Vatalayesham Anisham Hridibhavayami Krishno Rakshatumam Charachara Guruhum Krishnam Namasye Sadha Krishne Naiva Surakshito Hamasakritim Krishnaya Dattam Manaha Krishnadeva Samudbhavo Mama Vibhom Krishnasya Dasosmyaham Krishne Bhakti Rachancalastu Bhagavan He Krishna Tubhyam Namaha Shri Guruvayurappa Sharanam Namranham Sannidhatte Satatamapi Purastairanabhyartitanapi Arthan Kamanajasram Vitarati Paramananda Sandram Gatim Cha Ittam Nisheshalabhyo Niravadika Phalaha Parijato Hare Tvam Shudram Tam Shakravati Dhrumama Bilashati Vyartamartya Vrajohyam Shri Guruvayurappa Sharanam Shri Bhattapadam Anisham Hridibhavayami Vamshi Vibhushitakarat Navaniradaabhat Pitambharat Arunabhimba Paladharostat Purnendu Sundharamukhat Aravindhanetrat Krishnatvaram Kimapi Tattvamaham Najane Kairendum Kupinyan Vindu Mirakunno Niraja Lochana Ninodhai Yetinu Manyane Kumbidhen Datoru Ritiyil Nihenne Palikennai Krishna Hare Jaya Krishna Hare Jaya Krishna Hare Jaya Krishna Hare. Welcome everyone. 2 weeks feels like a really long break, so We will kind of a regular routine. So Nikki, get started with 76. So Srividya Sriram, can you be a student today?
Definitely.
And Vijay, can you be a student?
Yes,
okay.
yes.
All right, so we'll get directly into 76. So 76, I kind of put it in, although it's not very famous like the other chapters, but I think it's a pretty important, significant chapter actually, because it talks about the devotion of the Gopikas, right? Adhanala, it is important that I think we understand from that perspective as well, because a lot of philosophical things are going to come later, but this is more around the bhakti yoga. Okay, so stanza 1. Gatva sandhipanimat चतुष्षष्टिमात्रैरहोभिः सर्वज्ञस्त्वं सहमुसलिना सर्वविद्यां गृहीत्वा पुत्रं नष्टं यमनिलयनादाहृतं दक्षिणार्थं दत्त्वा तस्मै निजपुरमघाः नादयन् पाञ्चजन्यम्. So the 75th chapter, if you remember how it got ended, that's where Kamsa was killed, right? So all of that is happening at the end of 75. So once that happens, then Devaki and Vasudeva are beginning to feel that, or everybody is beginning to feel that Krishna is, he's not a normal human being. I mean, they already knew it, but then they had forgotten. And then they were really thinking of him as God. So Samhita, Krishna and Balarama then go and talk to Devaki and Vasudeva and say that, you are our parents, we didn't get a chance to spend time with you, and that is very unfortunate for any children. And they're kind of beginning to act like normal kids, so that they kind of covering that surface of Valtender. So they also feel bad that they haven't got a chance to spend time with their children. So they decide to stay back in Mathura. Krishna and Balarama decide to stay back in Mathura. And the Sametla Innatanaka, then Nandagopa, who's also there, he then tells them, Nandagopa, to go back to Gokulam, where he says the people still need you, they all miss you and all that. So he sends Nandagopa back. So all of that is not mentioned here, but that's the transition between 75 and 76 that's happening. So, and then because Krishna and Balarama are like around 11 or 12 years of age in the Sametla, so Devaki and Vasudeva decided to put Upanayanam. So they call Garga Muni, who also did the naming ceremony, and then they both have Upanayanam there. And then they are sent to the school, right? Because on the Sametla Bhagavatat, it says, although Krishna knows everything, he wanted to not give that impression that nothing is needed. So he wanted to behave like a child to Vasudeva and Devaki. So both of them decide to attend the school where Sandipani, he was a teacher. So they go to his ashramam, and on the Sandipani ashramatla, they teach Chatushashti, 64 types of various things, arts. Other than Tamil put in the Aya Kalegal Arvatinalu, they say, right? So 64 types of everything, whatever required for kingdom, ruling a kingdom, arts, literature, Elna. But people only pick one. But Krishna and Balarama, they finish it in Chatushashti Matra Hobing, the same number of days and nights, 64 things in 64 days and 64 nights, they finish it. And that's where they meet Sudama, who then becomes their very good friend, which will come later on in Kuchelo Pakyana. And then Adu Mudichite, and then once that is done, they then go and ask Sandipani, what do you want as Guru Dakshinai from me? So Sandipani, who knows the strength of Krishna and Balarama, then says that he and his wife had a son who then, when he had gone to the west coast, had suddenly disappeared into the waters. So they said, the Guru Dakshina for me would be, can you go and bring back my son, find out what happens. So Krishna and Balarama then go, that's why it says Putram Nashtam, I've lost my son. So they then go to the west coast, and then they find out that under the waters, there is a person called as Shankasura, which literally means a conch monster. So the Shankasura, there are a couple of theories around whether some say he lived inside a conch, inside a shell, or he was shaped like one. So don't know what the truth is. And Bhagavad it says he floats under the water like, he can swim under the water like a conch. But anyway, so they then go, they fight with him, and they get back Sandipani's son. And then Krishna gets back the conch as well. And that conch is what is now called as Panchajanyam. So Sandipani then calls it as Panchajanyam, and that becomes the conch that Krishna carries from there on, right? So that's what is happening in stanza 1. And in the the Krishna, the fact that Krishna got back his teacher's son is referenced back in Dasakam 88 or something in Santana Gopalopakyanam, where Devaki says, and you'll remember this when we come to that, but she says, you helped your teacher get back his son. Similarly, try to get back my 6 kids who I lost as well. So that will come later. But anyway, that's what is happening. All of that is happening in stanza 1. So Gatva Sandhi Panim Atar, comma, Chatush Shashti Matraira Hobihi, comma, Sarvajnastvam Saha Musalina Sarva Vidyam Grihitva. We'll just do two lines.
Rajesh, Sarva Vidya Grihitva.
Some books have Sarva Vidya, so you can put a im there on top of it then.
Thank you.
Yeah, some books have just as Vidya. Yeah. Gatva Sandhi Panimata Chatushashti Matrairaho Bihi Sarvajnastvam Saha Musalina Sarva Vidyam Grihitva.
Gatva Sandhipanimata Chatushashti Matrairahobihi Sarvajnastvam Saha Musalina Sarva Vidyam Grihitva. Gatva Sandhipanimata Chatushashti Matrairahobihi Sarvajnastvam Saha Musalina Sarva Vidyam Grihitva.
Gatva Sandhi Panimatha Chatushashti Matrairahobihi Sarvagyastvam Saha Musalina Sarva Vidyam Grihitva. Gatva Sandhi Panimatha Chatushashti Matrairahobihi Sarvagyastvam Saha Musalina Sarva Vidyam Grihitva.
Putram Nashtam, comma, Yama Nilayana Dahritam. It's Yama Nilayana Ahritam, but you say that whole word together. So Yama Nilayana Dahritam Dakshinartam, comma, Datva Tasmai Nija Puramaghaha. So if you don't have a Visarga, put a Visarga there and a comma. Nija Puramaghaha, comma, Nadayan Panchajanyam. Putram Nashtam Yamanilayana Dahritam Dakshinartam Datva Tasmai Nijapuramaghaha Nadayan Panchajanyam.
Putram Nashtam Yamanilayana Dahritam Dakshinartam Datva Tasmai Nijapuramagaha Nadayan Panchajanyam. Putram Nashtam Yamanilayana Dahritam Dakshinartam Datva Tasmai Nijapuramagaha Nadayan Panchajanyam.
Putram Nashtam Yamanilayana Dahritam Dakshinartham Datva Tasmai Nijapuramagaha Nadayan Panchajanyam.
And Vijay, in the Nashtam Kapram, we put a pause, okay? Third line.
Oh, Putram Nashtam. Okay.
Yeah.
Putram Nashtam Yamanilayana Dahritam Dakshinartham Datva Tasmai Nijapuramagaha Nadayan Panchajanyam.
Stanza 2. Smritva Smritva Pashupa Sudrushaha Prema Bhara Pranunnaha Karunyena Tomapi Vivashaha Prahinor Uddhavantam Kincha Mushmai Paramasuhrudhe Bhakta Varyayatasam Bhaktyudrekam Sakala Bhuvane Dhurlabham Darshahishyan. So Smritva means like double emphasis, is remembering a lot. So because Krishna is now in Mathura and he sent back Nanda Gopa and everybody back to Gokulam, so Krishna is remembering again the Pashupa Sudrushaha, is remembering the Gopikas and the Gopas and everybody there who are in Gokulam. And then he says that they are all Prema Bhar. They are so, the Gopikas and the Gopas are so overwhelmed in love for Krishna, and Krishna knows that. So because of that, he is very compassionate. So Karunyena. So because of that, you also were overcome with compassion. And Krishna is going and telling Uddhava that these Gopas and Gopikas, the amount of love they have for me is they have given up everything they have, right? Whether it be anything related to material, and they are not even educated, but they just absolutely love me. And I know they definitely miss me. I've never stayed away so much from them, because once, ever since he came to Mathura and he stayed to kill Kamsa and going to Sandipani Ashramam, he's not gone back, right? So it's been several months since he's gone back. So he says that I'm sure they are all missing me too much as well, and I also miss them. So he says to Uddhava, so I actually want you to go and show them, they go and tell Nanda Gopa and the Gopikas that I also like them a lot, but I'll eventually come. But there's another reason behind sending Uddhava there. So Uddhava, in the previous 75 last stanza, it says that Krishna then got Uddhava as a very close friend, it says. So Uddhava is actually a very learned person. He's learned it directly from Brihaspati, to the extent that later on when Dwaraka is going underwater, Krishna then gives that idol to Uddhava and says, in the idol has to be preserved, and then you go and put it in a safe spot. And Uddhava is the one who then goes to Brihaspati and all that, and they end up bringing that idol to Guruvayur, right? So Uddhava is a pretty learned person. And then he also likes Krishna so much that he actually starts imitating Krishna in every way, to the extent that he dresses like Krishna, he talks like Krishna, he behaves like Krishna, out of intense love as well. But he is kind of crossing over that border where he feels that he is Krishna also. He likes Krishna, but then he feels like, I like you so much, I am, I'm so learned, and how is it that I'm not getting the title of like a Brahma Rishi or something? So he was feeling that, and the ego was beginning to kick in. So that's what Krishna then sends Uddhava there, to go show him what is ultimate devotion to Krishna. He sends Uddhava, but also with the intent of going and telling Gopikas and Nanda Gopa that everything is fine and Krishna will come back. So smritva pashupa sudrushaha, comma, prema bhara pranunnaha, comma, karunyena tvamapi vivashaha, comma, prahinor uddhavam tam. If you want to break it, prahinor uddhavam tam. Smritva pashupa sudrushaha prema bhara pranunnaha karunyena tvamapi vivashaha prahinor uddhavam tam.
Smritva pashupa sudrushaha prema bhara pranunnaha karunyena tvamapi vivashaha prahinor
Uddhavam tam. Endil tam.
Uddhavam tam. Smritva pashupa sudrushaha prema bhara pranunaha karunyena tvamapi vivashaha prahinor ruddhvam tam.
If you break it at that ir, right, and say prahinor uddhavam tam.
Prahinor uddhavam tam.
Yeah.
Smritva pashupa sudrishaha prema bhara pranunnaha karunyena tvamapi vivashaha prahinor uddhavam tam. Smritva pashupa sudrishaha prema bhara pranunnaha karunyena tvamapi vivashaha prahinor uddhavam tam.
Kincha mushmai parama suhrude bhakta varyaya tasam, comma, bhaktyudrekam, one word, bhaktyudrekam sakala bhuvane durlabham darshayishyan. So darshi, to show him something which is durlabham, which is very rare. That's what durlabham darshayishyan. So kincha mushmai parama suhrude bhakta varyaya tasam bhaktyudrekam sakala bhuvane durlabham darshayishyan.
Kincha mushmai parama suhrude bhaktavaryaya tasam bhaktayutrekam sakala bhuvane durlabham darshayishyan.
So the last line, Shubhidya, Bhaktyudrekam. It's not Bhakta, and the tha is not a full tha, it's a half tha. So Bhaktyudrekam.
அவங்க பக்த
Bhaktyutrayam kapar kamarka.
Illa, kama illa.
Full
There's
ஒரே
no- yeah.
किञ्चामुष्मै परमसुकृते भक्तवर्याय तासां भक्त्युत्रेकं सकलभुवने दुर्लभं दर्शयिष्यन्
किञ्चामुष्मै परमसुहृदे भक्तवर्याय तासां भक्त्युद्रेकं सकलभुवने दुर्लभं दर्शयिष्यन् किञ्चामुष्मै परमसुहृदे भक्तवर्याय तासां भक्त्युद्रेकं सकलभुवने दुर्लभं दर्शयिष्यन्.
Stanza 3. Twan mahatmya pratimaphi shunham gokulam prapya sahyam twadvartabhir bahusaramaya nandham yashodham pratar drishtva manimayaratam shankitah pankhajakshyah shrutva praptam bhavadanucharam tyaktakarya samhiyuhu. So then Uddhava now goes to Gokulam. So he's actually going to Vrindavan. That's where all, because they had already moved to Vrindavan in the 49th chapter or something. So he goes there to Vrindavan and he's saying the prosperity of the place and the beauty of that place is an indicator that you were there, Krishna, that you used to be there. And that shows in the prosperity of the place and how naturally beautiful that place is. And once he goes there, he reaches there, Prapya Sayam, he reaches there in the evening. And then he goes to Nandagopa's house, and he goes to Nandagopa's house and they welcome him and all that. And then they ask about Krishna and then he asks about them, and Uddhava sends a message that Krishna had told that he really wants to come, but he's busy and he'll eventually come, and our well-wishing Elan, he's checking all that. But that, and then night happens. In the morning, when all the Gopikas and everybody wake up, they then see this Mani Maya Ratham. They see this chariot which is filled with jewels or decorated with jewels standing outside Nandagopa's house, and they first think that Krishna himself has finally come, and they were disappointed how Krishna has not come and met them. And eventually when that's why Shankita Pankajakshaha means lotus-eyed people, or Gopikas in this case, and they all get doubtful. So they immediately abandon everything that they are doing and then they rush to go meet who is there in Nandagopa's house. And when they go there, they realize that Krishna has not come, but Krishna has actually sent a messenger to come and meet with them. That's what is happening in 3. Twan Mahatmya Pratima Pishunam, comma, Gokulam Prapya Sayam, comma, Tvad Vartabhir Bahu Sa Ramayamasa Nandham Yashodham. So no pause there, continuous. Twan Mahatmya Pratima Pishunam Gokulam Prapya Sahyam Twadvartabhir Bahusa Ramayamasa Nandham Yashodham.
Tvan mahatmya pratima pishunam gokulam prapya sayam twadvartabhir bahusharamaya masanandam yashodham. Tvan mahatmya pratima pishunam gokulam prapya sayam twadvartabhir bahusharamaya masanandam yashodham.
त्वन्माहात्म्य प्रतिमपिशुनं गोकुलं प्राप्य सायं त्वद्वार्ताभिर्बहुसरमयामास नन्दं यशोदाम्. त्वन्माहात्म्य प्रतिमपिशुनं गोकुलं प्राप्य सायं त्वद्वार्ताभिर्बहुसरमयामास नन्दं यशोदाम्.
Pratar Drishtva Mani Maya Ratham, comma, Shankitaha is there, so you can put a if to join. Shankitah Panka Jakshyaha, comma, Shrutva Praptam Bhavada Nucharam, comma, Tyakta Karyaha, you can put a is there, Karyas Samiyuhu. प्रातर्दृष्ट्वा मणिमयरतं शङ्किताः पङ्कजाक्ष्यः श्रुत्वा प्राप्तं भवदनुचरं त्यक्तकार्याः समीयुः।
प्रातर्दृष्ट्वा मणिमयरतं शङ्किताः पङ्कजाक्ष्यः श्रुत्वा प्राप्तं भवदनुचरं त्यक्तकार्याः समीयुः। प्रातर्दृष्ट्वा मणिमयरतं शङ्किताः पङ्कजाक्ष्यः श्रुत्वा प्राप्तं भवदनुचरं त्यक्तकार्याः समीयुः।
प्रातर्दृष्ट्वा मणिमयरथं शङ्किताः पङ्कजाक्ष्यः श्रुत्वा प्राप्तं भवदनुचरं त्यक्तकार्या समीयुः।
Which is the last line, which is last line, Bhavadannucharam. Nu.
भवदनुचरम्.
Yeah.
प्रातर्दृष्ट्वा मणिमयरथं शङ्किताः पङ्कजाक्ष्यः श्रुत्वा प्राप्तं भवदनुचरं त्यक्तकार्या समीयुः.
Stanza 4. दृष्ट्वा चैनं त्वदुपमलसत् वेशभूषाभिरामं स्मृत्वा स्मृत्वा तव विलसितान् युच्चकैस्तानि तानि रुद्धालापाः कथमपि पुनर्गद्गतां वाचमूचुः सौजन्याधीन् निजपरभिदाम् अप्यलं विस्मरन्त्यः. So when they go to meet Uddhava, they see that he is Vesham Bhusham. Vesham means the clothes and how he's appearing. Bhusham means the ornaments. So the clothes and the ornaments and everything he's wearing is exactly like how Krishna also dresses up. So they then go and looking at that, they get even more, sad about it, that Krishna has not come, and two, they're looking at somebody who's looking like Krishna. So that then triggers more sorrow for them. And then they pull Uddhava to a corner and go and ask him that, how are things and why Krishna did not come. And here Bhattaripadi says that they are Ruddha Lapaha, they start choking for words, right? They are so sorrowful that they are not even able to talk. And then they are all stumbling. And then they somehow started to gather themselves and talk. And they keep talking about Krishna and all the activities that Krishna used to do when he was there with them. And also another interesting thing is here he's saying at the very end that in the Gopikas now, again, women of that time, right, they used to maintain certain decorum and how they behave with strangers, how they behave when other people are present and everything. And here the Gopikas had completely forgotten everything. And they didn't even care that some stranger had come. And they are like crying and they are like, they're not worrying about what they're talking about. And they were all so engrossed in what's happening that they did not even remember, they did not even worry about how they were behaving or how each other was behaving. So Drishtva Chainam Twadupama Lasad Vesha Bhushabhiramam. So no pause there, continuous. Twadupama Lasad Vesha Bhushabhiramam, comma, Smritva Smritva Tava Vilasitan Yuchakais, and you can't quite break that word, but you can say Vilasitan Yuchakais Tani Tani. Drishtva Chainam Twadupamalasat Vesha Bhushabhiramam Smritva Smritva Tava Vilasitan Yuchakais Tani Tani.
दृष्ट्वा चैनं त्वदुपमालसत् वेशभूषाभिरामं स्मृत्वा स्मृत्वा तव विलसितानुच्चकैस्तानि तानि.
Sorry, one second. Vilasitan Yuchakais. Here is a ya sound there.
Yuchakai.
Yeah. Vilasitan Yuchakais Tani Tani.
ஊ போட்டிருக்கு சார்.
அது வந்து விலசித்தானி உச்சகைஸ், அது வந்து ஜாயின் ஆகிறதுனால விலசித்தான் யுச்சகைஸ் ஆயிடுறது.
दृष्ट्वा चैनं त्वदुपमलसद् वेशभूषाभिरामं स्मृत्वा स्मृत्वा तव विलसितान्युच्चकैस्तानि तानि.
दृष्ट्वा चैनं त्वदुपमलसद् वेशभूषाभिरामं स्मृत्वा स्मृत्वा तव विलसितान् युच्चकैस्तानि तानि दृष्ट्वा चैनं त्वदुपमलसद्वेषभूषाभिरामं स्मृत्वा स्मृत्वा तव विलसितान् युच्चकैस्तानि तानि
रुद्धा लापाः कॉमा कथमपि पुनर्गद्गदां वाचम् ऊचुः कॉमा सौजन्याधीन निज पर bidham apyalam. If you want to break it there, bidham apyalam vismarantyah. So no pause in the fourth line. Nija para bidham apyalam vismarantyah. Ruddha lapaha katamapi punar gadgadam vachamuchuhu saujanyadhin nija para bidham apyalam vismarantyah.
रुद्धालापाः कथमपि पुनर्गद्गदां वाचमूचुः सौजन्यादीन् निजपरविदामप्यलं विस्मरन्त्यः रुद्धालाभाः गतमपि पुनर्गद्गदां वाचमूचुः सौजन्यादीन् निजपरपितामप्यलं विस्मरन्त्यः
रुद्धालापाः कथमपि पुनर्गद्गदां वाचमूचुः सौजन्यादीन् निजपरभिदाम् अप्यलं विस्मरन्त्यः रुद्धालापाः कथमपि पुनर्गद्गदां वाचमूचुः सौजन्यादीन् निजपरभिदाम् अप्यलं विस्मरन्त्यः.
Stanza 5. श्रीमन् किं त्वं पितृजनकृते प्रेषितो निर्दयेन क्वासौ कान्तो नगरसुदृशां हा हरे नातपायाः आश्लेषानाम् अमृतवपुषो हन्त मे चुम्बनानाम् उन्मादानां कुहकवचसां विस्मरेत् कान्तकाभाम्. So here then they're asking, Shriman, oh sir, talking to Uddhava, Kim Tvam, like who are you? Why are you being sent here? And they're saying, I know the reason I think you have come, or the reason why Krishna has sent you is primarily Pitru Jana. It's only for his parents, only for consoling his parents that Krishna has actually sent you as a messenger to tell his parents that everything is fine. And this person is Nirdhayena. Daya means pity. Nirdhayena means someone who's pitiless, someone who's heartless. So it says, I know this Krishna is a very heartless person, because I think now that he has gone to the city and he's completely forgotten all of us who are here in the villages or here in this area, he's completely forgotten all the past. And so there's no choice for us. So Ha Hare Natapaya is only Hari is our only choice. You know, we have to just resort back to him, because Krishna doesn't care about us anymore, because he's gone to the city. And then they say, but then they say on one end, they whine about it, right? They complain about it. At the same time, they also then go ahead and keep talking about, you know, who will forget all the time that Krishna has actually spent with us and how he used to play with us and how he used to spend all that. They just keep reminiscing about, you know, what Krishna used to do, right? So this is also very similar to Andal also, you know, when she was referring to Krishna, she said, you are a very heartless person, because I'm calling you so many times and you still refuse to come in front of me, and you don't have any heart. You don't have any, you know, you don't care for people. Even Andal used to say. So they are also saying, he never sent us any messages, and I'm sure you have come only to talk to his parents. So Shriman Kim Tvam, comma, Pitrjana Krite Preshito Nirdhayena, comma, Kwasau Kanto Nagara Sudrusham, comma, Ha Hare Natha Payaha. Shriman Kim Tvam Pitrjana Krite Preshito Nirdhayena Kwasau Kanto Nagara Sudrusham Ha Hare Natha Payaha.
श्रीमन् किं त्वं पितृजनकृते प्रेषितो निर्दयेन क्वासौ कान्तो न करसुदृशां हा हरे नाथ पायाः
Kim tvam kapram, there's a pause, okay?
Okay. श्रीमन् किं त्वं पितृजनकृते प्रेषितो निर्दयेन क्वासौ कान्तो न कर सुदृशां हा हरे नाथपायाः
श्रीमन् किं त्वं पितृजनकृते प्रेषितो निर्दयेन वासौ कान्तो नगरसुदृशां हा हरे नाथपायाः श्रीमन् किं त्वं पितृजनकृते प्रेषितो निर्दयेन क्वासौ कान्तो नगरसुदृशां हा हरे नाथपायाः
Ashleshanam amrita vapusho hanta me chumbhananam. Put the im at the end of that line and a comma. So no pause in between, but comma at the very end. Chumbhananam. Next line, that munmadhanam becomes unmadhanam. So unmadhanam kuhaka vachasam, comma, bismaret kanta kava.
Rajesh, and the hanta teva hanta neva.
Hantate.
Teda.
Yeah. Ashleshanam amrita vapusho hantate chumbhananam unmadhanam kuhaka vachasam bismaret kantakavam.
आश्लेषाणाम् अमृतवपुषो हन्तते चुम्बनानाम् उन्मादानां गुहकवचसां विस्मरेत् कान्तकावा आश्लेषाणाम् अमृतवपुषो हन्तते शुम्भनानाम् उन्मादानां गुहकवचसां विस्मरेत् कान्तकावा
आश्लेषाणाम् अमृतवपुषो हन्तते चुम्बनानाम् उन्मादानां कुहकवचसां विस्मरेत् कान्तकावा आश्लेषाणाम् अमृतवपुषो हन्तते चुम्बनानाम् उन्मादानां कुहकवचसां विस्मरेत् कान्तकावा.
Answer 6. Rasakridha lulita lalitam Bishlathat keshapasham Mandhodbhinna shramajalakanam Lobhaniyam twadangam Karunyabde sakrudapi samalingitum dharshayeti Premonmadhat bhuvana madana Vatpriyastvam vilepuhu. So again, they continue to recount and they say that, even during the Rasa Krida, when Krishna spent time with us, then there wasn't one Krishna for every Gopika who was dancing there, and says, he used to always spend time with us, and he's one of their favorite, right? And says this Karunyabde, he was an ocean of compassion, and he says all we want is for him to come back to us once. So Darshaya, we just show us you again, just once, right? Sama alingitum, and then embrace us, right, in a kind manner. And they're saying out of prema unmada, out of intense love, they're saying all we want is we just want to see him one more time. Because when he went to Mathura, he didn't even say proper goodbye, he just rushed away, and then he never came back. And all we want is we want him to come once and spend some time with us. And he's a Bhuvana Madana, he's the enchanter of the whole world. All the people who are devoted to you, your dear ones, kept talking about you. So they continue to talk about it here in a couple of stanzas. And from the next stanza is where Uddhava will then start responding. So Rasa Kridha Lulita Lalitam, comma, Vishlathat Kesha Pasham, comma, Mandhod Bhinna, double na is there. So Mandhod Bhinna Shrama Jala Khanam, comma, Lobhaniyam Twadangam. Rasa Kridha Lulita Lalitam Bishlatat Keshapasham Mandhodbhinna Shramajalakanam Lobhaniyam Twadangam.
रासक्रीडा लुलितललितं विश्लतत्केशपाशं मन्दोद्भिन्नश्रमजलगणं लोभनीयं त्वदङ्गं रासक्रीडा लुलितललितं विश्लतत्केशपाशं मन्दोद्भिन्नश्रमजलगणं लोभनीयं त्वदङ्गम्.
Oh, sorry. Rasakreeda lulitalaalitam vishlatat keshapasham mandodbhinna shramajalakanam lobhaniyam twadangam. Rasakreeda lulitalaalitam vishlatat keshapasham mandodbhinna shramajalakanam lobhaniyam twadangam.
Karunyabdhe Sakrudapi Samalingitum Darshayeti, comma. So there's no pause there. Premon Madhat Bhuvana Madana, comma. Tvat Priyas Tvam Bilepuhu. Karunyabde Sakrudapi Samalingitum Darshayeti. Premon Bhuvana Madana Tvatpriyas Tvam Vilepuhu.
कारुण्याते सुकृतपि समा लिंगितुं दर्शयेति प्रेमोन्मादात् भुवन मदन त्वत्प्रियास्त्वां विलेपुः.
Within the third line, Sakrudapi, not Sukrudapi. Sa.
Okay. कारुण्याते सकृतपि समालिङ्गितुं दर्शयेति प्रेमोन्मादात् भुवनमदन त्वत्प्रियास्त्वां विलेपुः.
कारुण्याब्धे सकृदपि समालिङ्गितुं दर्शयेति प्रेमोन्मादात् भुवनमदन त्वत्प्रियास्त्वां विलेपुः. कारुण्याब्धे सकृदपि समालिङ्गितुं दर्शयेति प्रेमोन्मादात् भुवनमदन त्वत्प्रियास्त्वां विलेपुः.
Yeah, so it's halfway, right? You maybe pick two other people. So Sangeeta B, can you be a student today?
Yeah, Rajesh.
Okay. Sriram Irkela.
Yeah, Rajesh.
Okay, Sriram's birthday today, so we will have Sriram be a student.
Happy birthday, Sriram.
Thank you.
இன்னைக்கு என்ன ஸ்பெஷல் லஞ்ச் ஆக்கல?
இனிமே தான் டிசைட் பண்ணோம்.
நம்ம எல்லாம் போயிடலாம் வித்யா.
அதான் எனக்கு 5 நிமிஷம் தான். I'll be there.
வாங்கோ.
எல்லாரும் வாங்க.
1 hour இருந்தா கூட வருவோம் நாங்க.
ஆமா. சாப்பாடுன்னு சொன்னா.
Happy birthday, Shriram.
Happy birthday, Shriram.
ஜெயஸ்ரீ சக்கரை பொங்கல் பண்ணிடு.
கண்டிப்பா பண்ணிடுறேன். உன்னோட ஃபேவரட்.
உனக்கா அவருக்கா?
அவளோட ஃபேவரட்.
Happy birthday, Shriram.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. So stanza 7. Evam praher vivashavachanaiः akula gopikastas tvatsandheshaiः prakritimanayate sota vijnana garbhaiः bhuyastabirmuditamatibih tvanmahibhirvadhubih tattadvarta sarasamanayat kanichit vasarani. So in the Mari, the Gopikas, right, they continue to keep talking about it, and they are just they're overwhelmed with grief, akulaha. And when Uddhava sees that, he says, you know what, it's time for me to come in and just clarify all these things. So he is coming with Tvat Sandeshaihi, your message. So Krishna's message to them was to not think of Krishna as a person, but to think of Krishna as somebody. You don't have to be in person to like somebody and then to be attached to it. So Krishna is saying, You got to start thinking about me in your mind. That was Krishna's message, original message. But Uddhava is also then going on. He starts with that. He says, hey, why don't you think of the divine nature of Krishna? So don't put him in a human form and say, I like this person. You think of the divine nature of Krishna. But he also says, you need to understand the scriptures. You need to understand what the Vedas and the Upanishads are telling. And you got to understand the meaning of the ultimate Brahman who's there. And he says all of that is only important because that's the only way it can give you this ultimate knowledge, which can then take you through life. So he says you have to understand all of that knowledge. And Uddhava is now giving them that information as well. And he's kind of comfort them. He's saying it's okay. That's not a priority. You focus on what is ultimate knowledge. So eventually he consoles the Gopikas and everybody. So once they are consoled and then they are, they're then happy, they then stop being sad. And then they start going back to their regular works. So they Sarasam Anayat means they continue to do, they're happily narrating, Tat Tat Varta. They still keep talking about you, but they go back to their regular duties and then they start, being very sorrowful or complaining about it. So, evam prayair bivasha vachanaihi. So the ra that is there, remove that ra and put a visarga first and a comma. Bivasha vachanaihi, comma. Then the next word becomes akula. Akula gopikas ta you have. So put a plus to that. So gopikas tas. The next line the is or I don't know if you have taha. You let me know if anybody has a different script there. So we have taha, that means you just have to put a is as a joining sandhi there. Some books already have it. So gopikas tas tvat sandeshaihi. So in the under visarga you can put a if to join it. So tvat sandeshaih prakritim anayat and then a comma. So evam prayair vivasha vachanaihi, comma, akula gopikas tas plus tvat sandeshaih prakritim anayat, comma, sota vijnana garbhaihi. Evam prayair vivasha vachanaihi akula gopikas tas tvat sandeshaih prakriti manayate sota vijnana garbhaihi.
Evam prayair vivasha vachanaihi akula gopikas tvat sandeshaih prakritim manayate sota vijnana garbhaihi. Evam prayair vivasha vachanaihi akula gopikas tvat sandeshaih prakritim manayate sota vijnana garbhaihi.
Evam prayair vivasa vasanaihi akula gopikas tvat sandeshaih prakriti manayad sota vijnana garbhaihi. Evam prayair vivasa vasanaihi akula gopikas tas sorry.
ஒரு correction. The vivasha vachana and the viva வந்து sh அதுக்கப்புறம் and then bacha. So first is a sh then a cha, not sa sa.
Oh, okay. Evam prayair vivasha vashanaihi akula gopikas tas tvat sandeshaih prakriti manayat soda vijnana garbhaihi.
Bhuyas tabhir muditha matibhihi. And the is that you have there, remove it, put a visarga and a comma. Muditha matibhihi, comma. Twan mayibhir vadhubihi. Again visarga at the end of that line and a comma. So next line, if you have a is, if you have it, remove that off. So it starts with tathad varta sarasam anayat. So you can break it into 4 parts there. Tattad varta sarasam anayat kanichit vasarani. So no pause in that last line. Bhuyastabir mudita matibihi twan mahibhir vadhubihi Tvanmahibhirbadhubihi tattat varta sarasamanayat kanichit vasarani.
Bhuyasthabirmuditmatibihi tvanmayibhir, right?
Mayibhir.
Tvanmayibhirvadhubihi tattad varta sarasam anayat kanichid vasarani. Bhuyasthabirmuditmatibihi tvanmayibhirvadhubihi tattad varta sarasamanayat kanichid vasarani.
So on the end, the Rani is a short E. Okay, it's not a long E. So that's not.
Okay. Can I go one more time? Rajesh?
Yes, go ahead.
Bhuyasthabir mudithamatibihi tvanmayibhir vadhubihi tattad varta sarasamanayat kanichid vasarani. Just
Bhuyastabir muditamadibhi tvanmayibirvudubihi tattatvarta sarasamanayat kanisit vasarani. Bhuyastabir muditamadibhi tvanmayibirvudubihi tattatvarta sarasamanayat kanichit vasarani.
And then the end and the Rani, don't stretch it in the end, okay? The last word.
Oh,
Rajesh, ஒரே ஒரு doubt. Sorry.
இல்ல காணிசித் வாசராணி
Yeah,
கரெக்ட்டா?
அவ்வளவுதான். ஆமா.
Okay.
Bhuyasthabir muditmatibihi tvanmayibhirra first pava, fourth pava, bhava.
Bha, pa, pa, bha, bha. And the last fourth.
Okay. அதேமே bhir vadhubihi அதுவும் fourth.
Adum fourth. Stanza 8. Tvat prodghane sahitamhanisham sarvato geha krityam twadvartaiva prasarati mitah saiva chotswapalapah cheshta prahyastvadanukhtayah tvanmayam sarvamevam drishtva tatra vyamuhadadikam vismayat uddhavoyam. So when Uddhava then decides to stay back for some time at Gokulam because he wants to make sure everything is fine, so he stays for some more time, and then he observes what the people of the region are doing. Then he says, he sees Tvat prodghanehi, anytime sarvatah, all of them, anisham, always, they're always singing about you, about Krishna. They're always singing. When they're doing geha krityam, when they're working on household chores, they are still continuing to focus on your tale only. They keep talking about all the activities and everything that Krishna is actually doing. And even in their dreams, it's Krishna who's actually coming in their dreams, and they're talking to Krishna in their dreams as well. And all of their actions are all about how Krishna used to do this. If you can also relate to it, right? Like when grandparents, I'm sure, right, when your children went to your parents' house, and they stay for a month, and then suddenly the children, your kids end up leaving. The grandparents are always talking about the kids. Oh, he used to come and do this. Oh, I remember if you make this, then he used to like this. So adhe mari you're non-stop talking about the life revolves around that. Adhe mari the Gopikas were also talking about that all the time. And sarvamevam, everything for them was tvatmayam, was personification of how Krishna or how you used to do it. Kapil Bhattacharya is saying tvatmayam. So everything they're thinking about Krishna and talking about in the context of what used to happen when Krishna was there. So Idella, having seen all this, so Vismayad, Uddhava is really stuck with wonder, right? So he's really amazed. He's saying, like, I've not seen, like, all the time, non-stop, they keep talking about this and they keep not imitating Krishna. He's really amazed, right? So there's one another story not related to this, but I think this is a fable. I don't know if it's real. I don't think it's real. But Orka Narada is going and asking Krishna that who is your favorite devotee, right? Like, I'm always chanting your name, right? So who is your favorite devotee? And Narada comes and asks. So Krishna says, oh, you know what? There is this farmer in that village and he's my most favorite devotee. Narada says, like, what do you mean? I'm like always chanting Narayana. So Krishna says, okay, come, let me go and show him. So they go down, and then Krishna then tells Narada, is like, okay, I'm going to give you one task. You see that mountain there, and in that mountain, I want you to carry this pot of water on your head and walk around that mountain. And if you walk around and not spill a drop of water, I will accept that you are my most favorite devotee. So okay, Narada then takes a pot of water, and then he starts walking around the mountain, and then he walks around, and then he comes back. He's extremely careful, and then he comes and tells Krishna, see, I've not dropped even one drop of water has not spilled, so I should be your favorite devotee. So Krishna says, okay, when you did that, how many times were you chanting my name? So Narada says, nothing, I was focused on making sure my water doesn't spill. So Krishna says, that's the difference. You look at the farmer. That farmer, when he's working, he's chanting my name. No matter what he's doing, is always doing my name. So andamari, implicitly, it should just be there, right? It should not be an explicit action. And that's what Uddhava is also seeing here is, it's not like they meet at 6 o'clock and say, okay, let's talk about Krishna. They're always, when they're working, they're talking about Krishna. When they're sleeping, they think about him. And at every point, they keep, imitating and talking about Krishna. So by seeing that, Uddhava is really amazed, right, at the devotion there. So Tvat Prodghanaihi is there. So put a is. Tvat Prodghanais Sahitam Anisham, comma, Sarvato Geha Krityam, comma, Tvad Vartaiva Prasarati Mitaha, comma, Saiva Chotswapa Lapaha. So other one, you can't quite break it because it's so say the whole word, Chotswapa Lapaha. Tvat Prodghanai Sahitam Sarvato Geha Krityam Twadvartaiva Prasarati Mitaha Saiva Chotswapa Lapaha.
त्वत्प्रोद्घानैः सहितमनिशं सर्वतो गेहकृत्यं त्वद्वार्तैव प्रसरति मितः सैव चोत्स्वापलापाः त्वत्प्रोद्घानैः सहितमनिशं सर्वतो गेहकृत्यं त्वद्वार्तैव प्रसरति मितः सैव चोत्स्वापलापाः
त्वत्प्रोत्कानैः सहितमनिशं सर्वतो गेहकृत्यं त्वद्वार्तैव प्रसरति मितः सैव सोत्स्वापलापाः.
So Sriram, and that's again, and the Sahitam Anisham and this Sha, S-H-A, Sha.
Okay.
And then the second name, the Saiva Chot, Allat C-H, Chot Swapa.
Chotswa. And the sonu போட்டிருக்கு தமிழ்ல.
Yeah. அதான்.
Chova, okay. त्वत्प्रोत्कानैः सहितमनिशं सर्वतो गेहकृत्यं त्वद्वार्तैव प्रसरति मितः सैव चोत्स्वापलापाः.
Cheshtaha is there. Put a if there. Cheshtah prayas Twadanukritayah. If you want to break it, you can say Twadanukritayah or Twadanukritayah together. And the Kritaya kapram, there is the is. So remove that is and put a visarga and a comma. So Cheshta prayas Twadanukritayah, comma, Twan mayam sarvamevam, comma, Drishtva tatra Vyamuhat adikam. So Vyamuhat adikam or Vyamuha Dadikam together, comma, Vismayad Uddhavoyam. You can break it there. Vismayad Uddhavoyam. Cheshta prayastvadhanukritayah tvanmayam sarvamevam drishtva tatra vyamuhadadikam vismayad uddhavoyam.
चेष्टाः प्रायस्त्वदनुकृतयः त्वन्मयं सर्वमेवं दृष्ट्वा तत्र व्यमुहदधिकं विस्मयादुद्धवोऽयम् चेष्टाः प्रायस्त्वदनुकृतयः त्वन्मयं सर्वमेवं दृष्ट्वा तत्र व्यमुहदधिकं विस्मयादुद्धवोऽयम्
श्रेष्ठाः प्रायस्त्वदनुकृतयः त्वन्मयं सर्वमेवं दृष्ट्वा तत्र व्युमदधिकं विस्मयात् उद्धवोऽयम्.
The fourth line, vyamuhad.
Vyammuhadadikam, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Adhe mari the first third line is cheshta. Okay, again chang. Cheshta.
ஆரம்பிக்கிறதுலையா?
Ama, starting.
चेष्टाः प्रायस्त्वदनुकृतयः त्वन्मयं सर्वमेवं दृष्ट्वा तत्र व्यमहदधिकं विस्मयात् उद्धवोऽयम्.
Stanza 9. Radhaya me priyatamamidham matpriyaivam bhaviti tvam kim maunam kalayasi sake manini matpriyeva ityadheva pravadati saki tvatpriyo nirjane mam ittam vadairaramayadayam tvatpriyam utpalakshim. So we spoke about all the other gopikas. Now this is devoted to specifically to Radha. So Uddhava is saying, when they are all sitting, so Radha is coming and asking, you are talking about all this, you know, that Krishna says he's going to come and everything, but what is he talking about me? Is he really missing me? When Radha is asking, so Uddhava is saying that Krishna says, I mean, you kind of have to think of it in quotes, right? What Krishna is saying is, anytime Uddhava is doing something, Krishna says, oh, Radha yame priyatamam idam. Oh, this is Radha likes this. So this is something that Radha likes to do. This is something that Radha likes to eat. So he keeps, every time something is happening, he immediately remembers that this is one of Radha's favorite. And then when Uddhava does not respond, then Krishna says, you know, mat priyevam bhaviti, my dear one speaks like this. And then he says, when Uddhava does not respond to something, then Krishna says is, Tvam kim maunam, why are you silent? Why are you silent, Uddhava? Like mat priya eva, like my dear Radha. Sometimes when Radha is upset, she doesn't respond. So Adhe Mari, you are also keeping silent. So why are you behaving like, you know, my dear friend Radha? Apdine, in this way, when I am alone, Krishna does not, he says here very clearly that Nirjane Mam, only when I am with Krishna, because I am one of his closest friends, when I am with him, he's constantly thinking about you as well. He doesn't do that in public, but in private, he's always thinking about you, Radha, and he's always, you know, talking about you as well. By saying this, Tvat Priyam Utpalakshim, your favorite person, Radha, your dear one. So Uddhava is actually talking to her and saying Krishna really misses you as well. He's just, you know, talking to her and making her happy. Radhaya me priyatamam idham, comma, mat priyaivam braviti, comma, tvam kim maunam kalayasi sakhe, comma, manini mat priyeva. Radhayam he priyatamamidham mat priyaivam braviti tvam kim maunam kalayasi sakhe manini mat priyeva.
Rajesh, Radhaya में प्रियतम इधम और प्रियतमम इदम.
Priyatamam.
Priyatamam idham.
Yeah.
I have it as priyatama midham. So can I read it the same way?
Priyatama midam irukliya. That's what it's, the right way of saying it's priyatama midam. That's what it is. But it is, you can say it as priyatama midam. I think when you say it together, it doesn't matter anyways. It'll all come out the same way. But it's the same thing.
Radhaya me priyatamam idam mat priyaiva braviti त्वं किं मौनं कलयसि सखे मानिनी मत्प्रियेव.
In the first line, mat priyaivam, im on top of that verb.
राधाया मे प्रियतममिदं मत्प्रियैवं ब्रवीति त्वं किं मौनं कलयसि सखे मानिनी मत्प्रियेव.
राधायामे प्रियतममितं मत्प्रियैवं प्रवीति त्वं किं मौनं कलयसि सखे मानिनी मत्प्रियेव.
Sridham, the first line end, braviti is a shorty, okay?
Praviti, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, राधायामे प्रियतममितं मत्प्रियैवं प्रवीति त्वं किं मौनं कलयसि सखे मानिनी मत्प्रियेव.
Ityadhyeva, dhya is there. So D and Y and the dhya. So ityadhyeva pravadati sakhi, short E again, comma. Tvatpriyo nirjane mam, im at the end of that line and a comma. Nirjane mam. Next line, that mittam becomes ittam. So ittam vadhair aramayadayam. You can do it two ways. One is you can break it into vadhair aramayadayam. That's one way. Or you can say this as vadhair aramayadayam. That's also fine. When you say it together, you won't see any difference anyways. But easier chollanaka vadhair aramayadayam, comma, tvatpriyam utpalakshim. Ityadhyeva pravadati sakhim tvatpriyo nirjane mam ittam vadhair aramayadayam tvatpriyam utpalakshim.
इत्याद्येव प्रवदति सखि त्वत्प्रियो निर्जने माम् इत्थं वादैर् अरमयदयं त्वत्प्रियामुत्पलाक्षीम्. इत्याद्येव प्रवदति सखि त्वत्प्रियो निर्जने माम् इत्थं वादैर् अरमयदयं त्वत्प्रियामुत्पलाक्षीम्.
इत्याद्येव प्रवदति सखी त्वत्प्रियो निर्जने माम् इत्थं वादैर्
Aramayadayam.
इत्थं वादैर् अरमयतयां त्वत्प्रियामुत्पलाक्षीम्. Correct சொன்னேனா அது?
Correct. The easiest, that's why I said the easiest way is to break it into that and the r into ir and a. So ittam vadai aramayadayam. That will be the easiest way. Stanza 10. Eshyamidrak anupagamanam kevalam karyabharat vishleshe smarana dhidata sambhavan mastu khedah brahmanandhe milati nachirat sangamo vabiyogas-tulyo vasyaditi tavagira sokaro nirvyathastha. So the final message then that Uddhava is giving from Krishna is Krishna saying, I will come soon, don't worry. And my not coming here is only because of Kevalam Karya Bharat, because I have a lot of work to take care of, right? That's what Krishna is giving as reason why he has not come yet, right, to see them. And he's saying I have a lot of things to take care of, because if you think of it, now is when, you know, he has Rukmini Kalyanam is going to happen. He's going to move to Dwaraka, then the whole Mahabharata war is going to happen. So all of those things, right? So he's saying I cannot come now because there are a lot of things to be taken care of. And then he says, when in separation, when you are separated from each other, right? So, but you still have that firm remembrance in your mind. He says that's what is important. That is the only way to not have grief, is just because you're separated, when you cannot see that person in person, or you cannot touch or feel that person, and you cannot feel sad about it, as long as you're having a firm remembrance of me, as long as you continue to remember me, there will be no grief to you. And then he also said, eventually, Brahmanande Milati, eventually when you attain salvation, or when you attain that state of Brahmananda, of bliss all the time, he says at that point, Sangamo ya via, whether you are meeting me or you are separated from me, either of that will be the same to you. So it should have the same level of bliss. You should have the same level of happiness, whether I am in person or I'm not in person, whether I'm with you or when I'm not with you. So that's the message that Krishna has sent you, that you continue to remember him, and it doesn't mean that he has to be in person. So that's the core message that he sent. And by saying such things, Uddhava then eliminates their sorrow and he gets it into their mind, because I don't think Krishna meets Gopikas after this at all. He doesn't come back at all. And because the message he's trying to drive to them is, yeah, you liked me and you loved me and you were really attached to me when I was in person, but I don't have to be in person for you to continue that love and devotion. You can just keep thinking about me and it should be the same to you, right? Whether I'm there or not there, you should still continue to just be in the same neutral way. So that's the core message that Krishna then tells, which Uddhava communicates to them. So Eshyami, the next word, Draga Nupagamanam, you'll have it. Draga Nupagamanam is what you'll have it. Break it into Drak. First put the ik there. Ka, first ka and line under ik. So Eshyami Drak, and then put a comma. Ik ke. Next word starts with a. Anupagamanam. Okay. So Eshyami Drak, comma. Anupagamanam kevalam karya bharat. Put the it at the end of that line and a comma. Karya bharat. Next line, if you have a dvi, right, the and the verb, remove that the, it just keep the v. So vishleshepi, right? So the goes away. Vishleshepi smarana dhridata sambhavan mastu khedaha. So no pause in that line. So, Eshyamidrak anupagamanam kevalam karya bharat vishleshe pismarana dhridata sambhavan mastu khedaha.
Eshyamidrak Anupagamanam kevalam karyabharat vishleshepi smarana dhritata sambhavan mastu kedah. Sorry, sambhavan mastu kedah. Eshyamidrak anupagamanam kevalam karyabharat vishleshepi smarana dhritata sambhavan mastu kedah.
Sangeeta, Drak, adukapram there's a comma, okay?
Okay.
Rajesh, apra second line la comma ve kadayada.
Second line la comma ille.
Okay.
Eshyamitrag anubagamanam kevalam karyabharat visleshe bismarana tridata sambhavan mastu kedah.
Sridham, the first letter, Eshyami, Eshyami.
Oh. Eshyamitrag anubagamanam kevalam karyabharat visleshe bismarana tridata sambhavan mastu kedah. The raga varmaatengirudhu Rajesh.
That's okay. That's okay. Parallel. Adu vandrum. Adu konjam rendu moonu thara sonna vandrum adu.
Enakku adukku romba dooram.
Brahma.
birthday, Sriram, anala your pardon.
Brahmanandhe milati nachirat, comma, sangamo va viyogas. And if some books already have the is in the next line or the same line, some books may have visarga there. So put a is, if you have visarga, put a is there instead of that and put a plus. So sangamo va viyogas and then put a plus. Tulyo, you have vaha, put the is again. Tulyo vas syaditi tava gira and then a comma. So nachirat, kapram one comma, then everything goes continuously, then tava gira, one comma. Sokaron nirvyathas taha. The double na coming there. So sokaron nirvyathas taha. Brahmanande milati nachirat Sangamo vaviyogastulyo vasyaditi tavagira Sokaro nirvyathastah.
ब्रह्मानन्दे मिलति न चिरात् सङ्गमो वा वियोगस्तुल्यो वस्यादिति तव गिरा सोकरो निर्व्यतास्ताः ब्रह्मानन्दे मिलति न चिरात् सङ्गमो वा वियोगस्तुल्यो वस्यादिति तव गिरा सोकरो निर्व्यतास्ताः
ब्रह्मानन्दे मिलदिन सिरात् संगमो वा वियोगस्तुल्यो वस्यादिति तव तुल्यो वस्यादिति तव गिरा सोकरान् निर्व्यतास्ताः.
Sokaron, last word. Yeah.
Brahmanande miladina sirat sangamo va viyoga. Again, Rajesh, break.
And the Nachirat kapro, there's a pause.
Brahmanande miladina sirat sangamo va viyoga vas siyatiti tavakira sokaron nirvyata staha.
Yeah. Stanza 11. Evam bhaktis sakala bhuvane nekshita nashruta bha kim shastraugaihi kimiha tapasa gopikabhyo namostu ityanandha kulamupagatam gokulad uddhavam tam drashtva hristo gurupurapate pahi mama mayoghat. So when Uddhava then stays for some time there and all of this is happening, right? And eventually he decides to leave. And when he leaves, then he says that evam bhakti, such type of devotion in the whole world, sakala bhuvane, na ikshita na shruta. Ikshita is to see. So I have not seen it, na shruta, nor have I heard about such a devotion anywhere in the rest of this world. He says, kim shastraogehi. So he says, what is the use of all the scriptures which is there, which is giving you a lot of the knowledge, right? And a lot of those things. And kimiha tapasa, what is the purpose of all the tapas and the penance that all the sages and everybody do? He says, none of this is mattering because the devotion that the Gopikas have is the highest. And he says, Gopikabhyo namostu. He says, salutations to the Gopikas, right? And then in Bhagavatam, he also goes on to say a lot more, but he says, that Vrindavanam, where the Gopikas are there, he says that is such a devoted land, that is such a sacred land, because every grass here that the Gopikas and the Gopas have walked on, right, is filled with devotion. So he then, pays homage to that land as well, saying that has really become a Punya Bhumi because of the Gopikas and everybody devotion there. And then later on, when he then comes back to Krishna, right, he then goes and tells Krishna, you remember I had come and asked you about why I should get that Brahma Rishi title. He says, I don't want the title anymore. He says, number one is, I don't think I deserve it. And number two, he says, it doesn't matter also. He says, the title doesn't matter to me anymore. And then he says, why did you send me to teach the Gopikas things? He says, and Uddhava is telling Krishna, I know that you know that the Gopikas' devotion to you is the highest. And I think you sent me there only so that I can learn, right, the kind of devotion that is actually required, because the Gopikas are not expecting anything back, right, in return. He says that is the kind of devotion which I think you are expecting, and that is what I was actually sent there. And then Krishna says, yes, that is what is missing in your knowledge, is while you're filled with knowledge, there is a level of love that has to be associated in the devotion. And when you're devoted, you need to absolutely, it's like caring for your child or loving them, right? You don't expect anything in return. That is the level of devotion that one has to actually get. And other than that, then you don't need anything else. And that's the reason that, Krishna says that I actually sent you there. And this forms the basis of the Bhakti Yoga, right? That Krishna then eventually goes on to teach. So, Bhatripad then ends it saying, Guru Purapate, O Lord of Guru Ayur, Mama Mayogha, please save me from all the ailments. So, Evam Bhaktihi, so put the is there, Evam Bhaktis Sakala Bhuvane nekshita na shrutava, comma, kim shastraugaihi, comma after that, kimiha tapasa, comma after that, gopikabhyo namostu. Evam bhaktis sakala bhuvane nekshita na shrutava, kim shastraugaihi, kimiha tapasa, gopikabhyo namostu.
एवं भक्तिः सकलभुवने नेक्षिथा न श्रुता वा किं शास्त्रौघैः किमह तपसा गोपिकाभ्यो नमोस्तु.
The second line kimiha.
किमिह. Okay. एवं भक्तिः सकलभुवने नेक्षिथा न श्रुता वा किं शास्त्रौघैः किमिह तपसा गोपिकाभ्यो नमोस्तु.
एवं भक्तिः सकल भुवने नेक्षिता न सृदा वा किं शास्त्रौकैः किमिह तपसा गोपिकाभ्यो नमोस्तु. एवं भक्तिः सकल भुवने नेक्षिता न सृदा वा किं शास्त्रौकैः किमिह तपसा गोपिकाभ्यो नमोस्तु.
Itya Nanda Kulam. So it's multiple words there. Itya Nanda Akulam, but you try to say that whole thing together. Itya Nanda Kulam Upagatam, comma, Gokulad Uddhavam Tam, comma, Drishtva Christo Guru Purapate, comma, Pahi Mama Mayoghat. Ityananda kulamupagatam gokulad uddhavam tam drishtva Christo guru purapate pahi mama mayoghat.
इत्यानन्दाकुलम् उपगतं गोकुलाद् उद्धवं तं दृष्ट्वा हृष्टो गुरुपुरपते पाहि मामामयोगात्. इत्यानन्दाकुलम् उपगतं गोकुलाद् उद्धवं तं दृष्ट्वा हृष्टो गुरुपुरपते पाहि मामामयोगात्.
Rajesh, comma வந்து குலம்க்கு அப்புறமா உப்பகத்தம்.
This is going to comment. Yeah, the comma on the Sangita is after that upagatam. Okay. You can break it as kulam upagatam, but the pause is after upagatam.
Okay. Ityananda kulamupagatam gokulat uttavam dam drishtva hृष्टो gurupurapate pahi mama mayakat.
Mama mayoghat.
Mama mayogat. Okay. Ityananda kulamupagatam gokulat uttavam dam drishtva hृष्टो gurupurapate pahi mama mayakat.
Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. Okay, we'll stop it at this chapter today. Om Sandhanandhavabodhatmakamanupamitam Kaladeshavadebhyam Nirmuktam Nityamuktam Nigamashata Sahasrena Nirbhasyamanam Aspashtam Drishtamatre Punarurupurusharthatmakam Brahmatattvam Tattavad Bhadi Sakshat Guru Pavanapure Hanta Bhagyam Janana Kahena Vacha Manasendriyedva Buddhyatmana va Prakrite Swabhavat Karomi Yatyat Sagalam Parasmai Narayanayeti Samarpayami.